I never imagined that my passion for art would lead to owning one of the largest private collections in New York. But watching my family's faces transform from mockery to shock made every struggle worth it. Before I tell you how my carefully hidden success was revealed in the most dramatic way, let me know in the comments if you've ever had your dreams dismissed by family. Hit that like button if you've ever been called a waste of potential. This story is for you. My name is Sophia Bennett, and at 29, I lived what appeared to be two completely different lives. To my family, I was the disappointing daughter who wasted her business degree on a struggling art career. In reality, I was the founder of Bennett Global Arts, a multi-million-dollar art investment firm that quietly dominated the international market. Growing up in Boston's affluent Beacon Hill, I was always the misfit in our family of practical achievers. My father, William Bennett, built his reputation as a cutthroat corporate lawyer. My mother, Catherine, ran a successful investment banking firm. My older brother James followed perfectly in their footsteps, graduating from Harvard Law with honors. Then there was me, the child who spent hours sketching in her room instead of networking at country club events. "Art won't pay the bills, Sophia," became my father's constant refrain. Even when I won national art competitions in high school, his response was always the same. "That's nice, dear, but when are you going to focus on something serious?" My mother's approach was more subtle but equally dismissive. "Darling, art can be a lovely hobby," she'd say, emphasizing the word hobby, while sliding business school applications across the dinner table. "But you need a real career." The only person who ever truly supported my passion was my grandfather, Theodore Bennett. A self-made man who built his fortune through smart investments, he saw something in me that my parents missed. "You have an eye, little one," he'd say during our secret visits to galleries and museums. "Not just for art but for value. That's a rare combination." While my family thought Grandpa Theo was just indulging my childish interests, he was actually teaching me everything about art as an investment. By 16, I could spot emerging trends in the market. By 18, I could estimate a painting's potential value better than most professional appraisers. I agreed to attend business school to appease my parents, but not at Harvard like they wanted. Instead, I chose NYU, where I could double major in business and art history. My father nearly had an aneurysm. "If you're determined to throw away your potential," he declared, "you can do it without our money." That was fine by me. What they didn't know was that Grandpa Theo had secretly set up a trust fund for me years ago, specifically earmarked for my education and future art investments. "Your parents see the world in black and white," he told me before I left for college. "You see it in color. Don't let them dim your vision." During college, I worked as an assistant at various galleries, learning the industry from the inside out. My business classes taught me about market analysis and investment strategies, while my art history studies deepened my understanding of value beyond mere dollars and cents. Everything changed during my junior year when Grandpa Theo passed away. To everyone's surprise, he left me his entire art collection and a significant portion of his investment portfolio. The will came with a letter that changed my life. "Dearest Sophia, while others saw a dreamer, I saw an investor with an artist's soul. The collection is yours, along with $50 million in seed capital. Build something extraordinary, but do it quietly. Sometimes the best power is invisible. Love, Grandpa Theo." My parents were furious about the inheritance, especially when I refused to sell the collection and invest in something sensible. What they didn't know was that I was already using the seed money to build Bennett Global Arts, though the company was registered under a complex network of holding corporations that couldn't be traced back to me. Over the next 5 years, I built my empire in complete secrecy. To my family, I was just another struggling artist in New York, occasionally selling pieces for barely enough to get by. In reality, I was becoming one of the most influential figures in the international art market. My company didn't just buy art. We discovered talent, shaped trends, and controlled major portions of the market through strategic investments and acquisitions. All while I maintained the perfect cover of the family disappointment. The deception might have continued indefinitely if my brother James hadn't decided to prove his superiority once and for all. It started with an invitation I never expected. "The Morrison Gallery is hosting a major exhibition," he announced during one of his condescending phone calls. "I've arranged for the family to attend opening night. Time to see what real success looks like, little sister." What James didn't know was that I owned the Morrison Gallery through one of my shell corporations. The exhibition he was so excited about. I had personally selected every piece. Sounds interesting, I said mildly, already planning how this revelation would play out. When is it? Next Friday. Try to dress appropriately for once. My clients will be there. I smiled as I hung up, looking around my penthouse office with its view of Central Park. The walls were lined with pieces worth more than James's annual salary. Perhaps it was finally time to show my family exactly what wasting time with art really meant. The week leading up to the exhibition was a careful dance of preparation. I worked with Marcus Chin, my gallery director and one of the few people who knew my true identity, to ensure everything would be perfect for the upcoming revelation. Are you sure about this? Marcus asked as we reviewed the final arrangements. Once they know, everything changes. It's time, I replied, thinking of all the dismissive comments and superior smirks I'd endured. Let's show them what real success looks like. The night of the exhibition arrived and I dressed for both of my roles, the struggling artist and the secret power player. My outfit was expensive but subtle, the kind of understated luxury that most people would miss but true connoisseurs would recognize instantly. I arrived early, watching from a quiet corner as New York's elite filtered into my gallery. Art critics, collectors, and socialites mingled beneath the soaring ceilings I'd had renovated last year. Then my family arrived. James entered first, playing the role of sophisticated art patron with practiced ease. Our parents followed, looking perfectly polished and utterly out of place among the genuine art enthusiasts. None of them noticed me watching from the shadows. Quite an impressive collection, James announced loudly to anyone who would listen. My firm represents several serious collectors who might be interested. If he only knew that I'd already privately sold most of the pieces to my regular clients, leaving just enough for tonight's public auction to maintain appearances. I moved closer, letting them catch sight of me. Mom's face immediately fell into its usual mask of disappointed concern. Sophia, darling, she said, air-kissing my cheek. We didn't expect to see you here. Are you working the event? Before I could respond, James jumped in with his trademark condescension. Still wasting time with art, sis? You know, it's not too late to join a real business. My firm's always looking for, well, support staff. I smiled, knowing what was about to happen. Actually, I'm quite happy with my career choices. What career? Dad scoffed. Selling the occasional painting barely counts as employment. Just then Marcus stepped up to the podium right on schedule. The first act of the evening was about to begin, and my family had no idea they were about to become part of the show. The gallery lights dimmed slightly as Marcus tapped the microphone, drawing everyone's attention. My family shifted away from me, clearly hoping to distance themselves from their embarrassing relative during the formal proceedings. Good evening, distinguished guests, Marcus began, his voice carrying across the hushed gallery. Welcome to the Morrison Gallery's most ambitious exhibition to date, Hidden Perspectives, the Future of Contemporary Art. I watched my brother straighten his tie, probably planning how to network during the reception. If he only knew who really owned the room he was trying to conquer. Tonight's collection, Marcus continued, represents a carefully curated selection of works valued at over $300 million, bringing together both established masters and emerging talents. My father's eyebrows rose at the number. I could practically see him calculating potential legal fees from wealthy art collectors. But before we begin the auction, I have a unique privilege. Tonight, we're honored to have with us the visionary behind not only this exhibition but the entire Morrison Gallery's transformation over the past 3 years. A murmur of interest rippled through the crowd. The Morrison Gallery's mysterious owner had been the subject of intense speculation in the art world, especially after our string of successful international exhibitions and market-making acquisitions. James leaned toward our mother, whispering just loud enough for me to hear. Probably some old money collector with more cash than sense. Not like Sophia's little paintings. I bit back a smile, remembering the piece of mine that had sold for $2.3 million last month. Through a pseudonym, of course. Marcus's voice cut through the whispers. While this person typically prefers to remain anonymous, tonight marks a special occasion. Please welcome the owner of the Morrison Gallery and founder of Bennett Global Arts. My family's heads snapped up at our surname, confusion evident on their faces. Miss Sophia Bennett. The silence that followed was absolute. I stepped forward into the spotlight, wearing success as comfortably as my designer dress. My mother's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, saved only by a quick-moving waiter. "Thank you, Marcus," I said, taking the podium. As many of you know, the art world thrives on both visible beauty and hidden value. Tonight, I'm pleased to share both. The next 30 minutes were a masterclass in professional revenge. I guided the audience through the exhibition, discussing each piece with the expertise of both an artist and a market maker. Every analysis demonstrated not just artistic understanding but deep financial acumen. "This piece," I said, gesturing to a large abstract canvas, "represents not only an emerging aesthetic but an investment opportunity. Similar works by this artist have appreciated 300% in the past 18 months. Art critics nodded appreciatively while investors scribbled notes. My father, the man who had dismissed art as financially worthless, stood frozen as I casually discussed million-dollar transactions. "Of course," I continued, "Bennett Global Arts has been quietly tracking these trends through our 17 international galleries and private consulting services." James's face had turned an interesting shade of pale. His own client list, which he'd bragged about at every family dinner, suddenly seemed insignificant compared to the collectors I worked with. During a brief intermission, my mother managed to corner me near a sculpture installation. "How?" she began, then collected herself. "How long have you been running a multi-million-dollar art investment firm?" I finished for her. "Remember when you said I was wasting my business degree? I was actually combining it with my hobby to build something extraordinary." "But the struggling artist act," my father interjected, joining us. "The small apartment, the occasional sales." "A cover," I explained. "One you were all too ready to believe. My real office overlooks Central Park." "The small apartment you visited?" "Just a meeting space for clients who appreciate discretion." I led them to a private viewing room, where Marcus had prepared a comprehensive presentation of my company's holdings. The screens displayed a global map dotted with Bennett Global Arts properties: galleries, auction houses, conservation studios, and consulting offices. "Current company valuation: $1.2 billion, I said casually, watching their expressions. "It turns out art does pay the bills, Dad." "Quite well, actually." James, who had followed us in, was frantically Googling on his phone. "This is impossible," he muttered. "I would have heard." "Would you?" I asked. "The art world runs on discretion and relationships. Two things you never bothered to understand while you were mocking my career choice." I pulled up our client list, names that made James's legal contacts look like small-town practitioners. "We handle private acquisitions for museums, manage collections for royal families, and shape market trends through strategic investments." "Grandpa Theo's collection," Mom whispered, realization dawning. "That's how you started." "He saw what you didn't," I confirmed. "Not just artistic talent but business acumen. He gave me the tools to build something unprecedented." The screens showed headline after headline about Bennett Global Arts' market influence, though none had ever connected the company to the struggling artist Sophia Bennett. "Why hide it?" Dad asked, his lawyer's mind clearly trying to make sense of the deception. I turned to face them fully. "Because you taught me that power is more effective when people underestimate you." Every dismissive comment, every mockery of my choices, just made it easier to build this empire without interference. Marcus appeared at the door. "Ms. Bennett, the auction is ready to begin." "Thank you, Marcus." I turned back to my family. "Now, would you like to see what wasting time with art really looks like?" The auction that followed was a masterpiece of choreographed power. I watched my family's expressions shift from shock to awe as paintings sold for millions. Every sale represented not just profit, but validation of my vision. Between bids, I caught snippets of conversation from nearby guests. "She's revolutionized the market. The youngest powerhouse in the art world. Her investment strategy is brilliant." James, who had spent years introducing me as his artistic little sister, now stood silent as major collectors greeted me with obvious respect. The final lot of the evening was special. A piece I'd created under my pseudonym, though only Marcus knew this detail. "Our last offering," Marcus announced, "is from the reclusive artist St. Rivers, whose works have become highly sought after in recent years." I watched my family's reactions as the bidding quickly escalated past $5 million. They had no idea they were watching my own artwork sell for more than James's annual partner draw at his law firm. The piece finally sold for $7.8 million to a Saudi princess, who immediately requested a private meeting with the gallery owner, Humi, to discuss commissioning more works. As the evening wound down, I could see my family struggling to reconcile their image of their failed artist daughter with the powerful figure they'd discovered. The transformation was complete, but the real test would be what came next. How would they handle this new reality? Would they acknowledge their misjudgment or try to rewrite history? Marcus approached with the final sales figures for the evening. It was time for the last act of this carefully orchestrated revelation. The morning after the exhibition, I sat in my real office, a stunning duplex penthouse atop one of Manhattan's most exclusive buildings. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of Central Park, while the walls showcased my private collection, including pieces worth more than my family's combined net worth. A soft knock announced Marcus's arrival with my morning briefing. "The final numbers from last night," he said, sliding a report across my desk. "Total sales, $127 million. Your personal piece set a new record for contemporary abstract works." I smiled, thinking of my family's faces when they'd watched the bidding war without realizing it was my art being sold. "Any press coverage?" Every major art publication is running stories about the mysterious owner of Bennett Global Arts finally revealing herself. The Wall Street Journal wants an exclusive interview. Before I could respond, my private elevator chimed. The security feed showed my parents and James in the lobby. "They're persistent, I'll give them that," I mused. "Send them up." Moments later, my family stepped into my office, their expressions a mix of awe and discomfort as they took in the space that so clearly displayed my success. "Nice view," James managed, his attempt at casual falling flat. "Better than the struggling artist studio you used to mock?" I asked pleasantly, watching him flinch at the reminder. Mom moved to examine the nearest painting. This is a Rothko." "Yes," I confirmed. "Purchased last year for $58 million. One of my better investments. It's appreciated 20% already." Dad, ever the lawyer, cut straight to the point. "Why are we here, Sophia?" "You came to my office," I reminded him. "But since you're here, let's talk about last night." I pressed a button and screens descended from the ceiling, displaying a comprehensive overview of my empire. Galleries worldwide, investment portfolios, artist development programs, and market analysis that had shaped the international art scene for years. "Bennett Global Arts isn't just a company," I explained. "It's a revolution in how art is valued, traded, and invested in. While you were pitying my wasted potential, I was building something unprecedented." "But why the deception?" Mom asked, her voice small. "Why let us believe you were struggling?" I walked to the window, considering my answer. "Do you remember what you said when I won my first major art competition in high school?" They looked blank. "You said, 'That's nice, dear, but don't let it distract you from real opportunities.'" Every achievement in art was dismissed as a distraction. Every success was minimized because it didn't fit your definition of value. "We were trying to protect you," Dad protested. "No," I corrected firmly. "You were trying to control me. To force me into a mold that worked for James but would have killed everything unique about me." I moved to a particular painting, one of my own works, though they didn't know it. Grandpa Theo was the only one who saw that my love of art wasn't just about creating beauty. He recognized that I understood both the artistic and financial aspects of this world. He gave me the freedom to combine them in my own way. James, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke. "The clients I've been trying to land, they've been working with you all along, haven't they?" "Most of them," I confirmed. "That merger you were so proud of last month? The art collection valuation that made it possible came through one of my subsidiaries." The irony wasn't lost on any of us. Marcus returned with coffee and a stack of morning papers, all featuring stories about the exhibition and the revealed power player in the art world. "The Art Forum piece is particularly interesting," he noted, handing me the magazine. "They're calling you the most influential force in contemporary art market dynamics." Mom reached for the magazine with trembling hands. "Our daughter, the one we thought needed saving, is actually..." Actually successful beyond your wildest expectations? I finished for her. Yes. Just not in the way you prescribed. I led them on a tour of my real life. The private gallery where I created my works under the St. Rivers pseudonym, the state-of-the-art conservation studio where we restored priceless masterpieces, the digital command center where we tracked global art market trends. This piece, I said, stopping at a particular painting, sold for $7.8 million last night. Would you like to know who the artist is? They nodded, still overwhelmed by everything they were seeing. I painted it. St. Rivers, Sophia Theodore Rivers Bennett. Every time you mocked my little paintings, you were actually mocking works that sold for millions. The silence that followed was deafening. I don't expect instant understanding or approval, I continued. Those stopped mattering to me years ago. What I do expect is respect for my choices, my success, and my vision. Dad cleared his throat. The legal structuring of your company, it's brilliant. Yes, I agreed. Almost as if I learned something in business school while wasting time with art. The next few hours were filled with questions, explanations, and gradually dawning recognition of just how completely they had misjudged me. Mom cried when she realized how many important moments she had missed. James struggled to reconcile his years of condescension with my obvious success. As they prepared to leave, I had one final revelation. The Morrison Gallery exhibition space? It's being renamed next month. I handed them an invitation. The Theodore Bennett Gallery for Contemporary Arts, in honor of the one person who believed in combining business acumen with artistic vision. He would be so proud, Mom whispered. He was proud, I corrected. He knew everything. Every success, every acquisition, every milestone. He just understood the power of letting me succeed on my own terms. That evening, alone in my office, I received an unexpected text from James. I was wrong. About everything. Coffee sometime? My treat, if I can afford your taste now. I smiled, typing back. There's a little cafe in my building. I own it, but the coffee's excellent. His response came quickly. Of course you do. Does anything in this city not belong to you? Come find out, I replied. Looking out over the city lights, I thought about Grandpa Theo and how he taught me that true success isn't just about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. The empire I'd built wasn't just a response to my family's doubts. It was a manifestation of my complete vision. If you've ever been told your dreams aren't practical enough, that your passion won't pay the bills, remember this. Sometimes the greatest success comes from combining what others see as contradictions. Business and art. Investment and creativity. Pragmatism and passion. Have you ever had to hide your success to protect your dreams? Or felt the need to prove yourself to those who doubted you? Share your story in the comments below. And if this journey of hidden triumph and artistic vindication resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about success on your own terms. Remember, sometimes the most powerful masterpiece isn't hanging on a gallery wall. It's the life you build while others are busy doubting your canvas.